How's it going, everyone? Classy here, and finally got my hands on a PS5, so I'm going to do just a quick setup guide for it with the LG G1. I also picked up a 2TB SSD and an enclosure to put the older PS4 games on. So Mrs. Classy is going to open. Now I've seen that the outer sleeve for the box is quite thin and easy to tear, so no pressure. The box is very large.
Definitely bigger than the Series X.
Yep. More boxes and boxes. No special presentation like the Series X. I just say flip it and let it slide out.
Here, on the side. Oh, it's the box. It's not the box.
Alright, so this box, controller, power cord, papers, and the stand. That's back. There's the back, the side, the front. It is the disc model. Here's the controller. So I have fairly big hands. I've pretty much always been a main Xbox player, so it'd be interesting to see how I like this over time, but first impression, it fits nicely. Now she has small hands, so
It's gonna definitely be weird to play with, but like you said, it'll be over time.
Alright, so let me get these opened, get it all hooked up. I already ran the network and HDMI cable. I'm using a Zeskit HDMI 2.1 cable, just so I could rerun it. Otherwise, I would have just used the one that came with it. I actually do have a bunch of HDMI cables here, so I'm going to do a little video on those soon. But let me get this all set up, and then we'll see how to do the settings on the TV. Actually, figure show how to use the stand for it really quickly. So at the base of it, there's a little circle right there. That's a screw cap cover. You pop that out, and then underneath the stand is the screw that if you're going to stand it vertically, you run it through like that. We aren't going to be using it that way. We're going to be having it lay down under the TV. Hopefully it'll fit. And in that case, there is, just show this right in this lip. See if you can see it on the camera. So right in here is a bunch of crosses, triangles, circles, and squares, and that's where the stand will clip to.
Between the two squares.
And that's the stand. Now the HDMI cable, I'm actually kind of interested in my HDMI video now because there's literally doesn't say anything on it. Doesn't say HDMI, doesn't say ultra high speed, nothing. And if I look at the actual wire itself, it only says high speed HDMI cable. So it's also very thin and chintzy looking. So I'm happy I have a Zeskit cable. Sadly, it does not fit under the TV. It is just too fat. Just like me. So I gotta put it at the bottom of the entertainment stand and find something else to take that spot. Alright, so now it's on the bottom shelf, and I have a little bit of space left down there to put the Fire Cube once I get that open. And I'll probably put the classic systems up on the top shelf, which is a little odd, being that they're old and classic, but I guess it's also kind of cool in a way. Alrighty then, let's adjust the camera. I saw that it already said PS5. Alright, so the default scaling is correct on the system, and I have not used this input, so let's see what the TV's doing. It's on Game Optimizer, that's good. Aspect is on 16:9. I like to just set it to original. That way if there is anything with black bars, I don't want any scaling done. And then just scan, I just have on auto or on. While we're in here, let's see what settings are default. So it defaults with tone mapping on. We want to turn this to HGIG for the setup. Color is bumped a little. Color temperature is in the middle, which is too cool. Sharpness defaults to 10. I like to turn that to 0 so that it's in neutral. And then I want to go to general, make sure the AI stuff is turned off. And go to Game Optimizer. And I want to put on boost mode because the PS5 does not let you set the system to 120 Hz like the Xbox does. This way the TV will kind of sort of act like it's in 120 Hz to get lower input lag at 60 Hz. For this input, there's no VRR on the PlayStation, so I'm just going to turn that off. Give the TV a minute to re-handshake. You can see all this is now off. And that's that for the TV. So I'll probably come back and check in PC mode and probably put it into PC mode because I will not be using the PS5 for any video or movie content, and that way it will always be 444 chroma, but I will mess with that later. So here we are at the adjust HDR screen. So at 14 clicks, it just disappears. And again, go all the way down, and then 14 clicks and it just disappears again. I know it says barely visible, but you don't want to do it that way. You want it to actually clip. Otherwise you leave excess brightness on the table because it goes up by such a large margin with each press. So here we just want to go all the way down because we want true blacks. I do not have a game disc to put in right now. Power usage, I'll do custom. Supply power to USB devices. So if I'm plugging the controller in and I want to turn the system off, I'm just gonna put always. That way the controller is always charged for me. While in rest mode, you can download updates. Yes, I would like to do that. Nope, that's on. Enable turning on PS5 remotely. That I don't care about, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Download updates while it's in rest mode. Yes. Install system software. Download game updates, install game. Yep, I'm good with all of that. Got your agreements. And now I have to do an update. So I will cut back when this is done. Alright, update is done. Now the controller needs an update. Alright, so I just went through the rest of the personal account stuff. Download one of your games. So I have not had a PlayStation 4 since about 2015, maybe 2016. So I missed about the last 4 or 5 years of PS4 games. So I have those to catch up on. I'm not going to be using apps on the system, although I may have YouTube on here just for if I'm playing something and want to look something up for a guide or whatever. Alright, yeah, so that's not account related, that's actually needing a system, which I don't have. So just gonna look around here for a second and get used to this. I mean, I saw initial videos when the system came out, but I haven't kept up on it, and this is the first time actually using one. Just gonna mess around for a minute and get used to the settings and where everything is. I might change these later just to help battery life, but I will keep them on standard to begin with to see what it feels like. So USB extended storage. Use a USB drive formatted. So USB extended storage, blah blah blah. PS5 games have to be played from the internal 600 gigs, or whenever they do decide to add the support for the M.2 drive slot that the system has, then you can expand it that way. Otherwise, the external USB storage is going to be for PS4 games. Alright, I'm going to save some time right now. Just speed this up. Turns out that enclosure does not work with the PS5. It should, but the PS5 is extremely picky about what cables or adapters and enclosures work for extended storage. So the Nexstar 3.1 did not work. I ended up having to get a different kind of cable and adapter. I had 4 different USB 3 and 3.1 cables that I tried with this enclosure, and none of them would work. It kept saying that it was unsupported file format, and yes, the SSD was formatted on a PC first. It was initialized and then formatted as exFAT like it's supposed to be, but it just would not work on the PS5 until I got a different adapter. Then it was fine. The one that worked was a Sabrent USB 3.1 adapter that doesn't have an enclosure. It just goes straight from the SATA of the drive to a USB 3.1 Type A cable, and plug that into the back of the PS5, and no problems after that. So if you're experiencing any issues like this, trying to get a extended storage drive to work on the PS5, try out the Sabrent USB 3.1 adapter. It's about $15. Alright, so it's now the next day, and I finally got this drive situated. It took multiple different USB cords before I found one that would work at all. Got it formatted, started to install stuff, and then the system froze. shut down, didn't want to turn back on without a full power reset, and then it kept saying that it needed to be repaired and couldn't repair it. So that's when I gave up and I went and bought 3 different types of enclosures and adapters, and this one ended up being the one that worked. So with that done, I've started to install some stuff. And then the internal storage is 667 gigs with nothing, but the initial setup has you pick a game, so I had picked Spider-Man, and then it installed Astro's Playroom, so that used some of the space. And with just these few games, I'm down to 400 gigs already, so I definitely recommend getting an extended storage drive for the PS4 games. Alright, so moving on from there, you can do sound settings. Mess with that later. Audio output, this is what I want. Device type, AV, well, probably want to do, 7.1, just speaker positions. Alright, now here's the problem, because I have a 5.1.2 with 2 height speakers. So I may have to just do 5.1, since there's no option for that. And then just let my receiver use whatever upmix, because I don't know if this does Dolby or DTS. Well, the TV doesn't do DTS over eARC, so I'll have to see if it'll do Dolby or if it's only PCM. Here we go. Alright, yep, never mind. Here's linear PCM, Dolby. So I can prioritize Dolby and then let my receiver upmix it, hopefully. And if I were to pick DTS, yeah, the TV just sends it as Dolby still. Alright, so I'm going to be messing around with some settings, but for right now, pretty much leave it all at auto. It is showing 120 Hz supported, so that's all correct. Pretty much all the games that I'm going to play, I'm pretty sure are HDR, so I'm going to leave this on, except I may switch over to using this for Fortnite, and then it's crossplay instead of playing it on the Xbox. That way the TV goes into an HDR mode, and I'm not locked out of the peak brightness setting. I was letting my kids play Astro's Playroom a bit. Alright, I already did all this. Deep color. Alright, so the PlayStation natively uses full, but for movies it will switch to limited when it's set to automatic. So if you are going to be using your PlayStation for games, movies, and TV, then keep it at automatic. I'm going to dim the screen after 5 minutes, and I'm not going to be using this to watch anything. Alright, now loaded up the remastered version of Spider-Man just for a minute, and first time loading it up, so here's the first cutscene. You can see there's no VRR, PS5 doesn't support that yet. I did not adjust the camera white balance, so it looks a little too orangey compared to what it was in person. I just wasn't thinking about doing that at the time. But other than that, everything looks very good. The blacks are obviously very black, and the contrast is really good. I think the brightness is definitely bright enough, not dim at all. Kind of surprised at the amount of people who think the LG OLEDs are dim for gaming when it's in HDR. don't think they realize that the point of HDR is that it can get very bright for the highlights, but everything else is supposed to follow that curve, and the TV does that very well. So that's how the game was designed to be. Right here I do adjust the ISO on the camera, so that's about how bright it was in person. Alright, but that should cover this just initial setup. I'm going to enjoy it for a little bit and make some videos pretty soon with more detailed settings and compare games versus the Xbox, I guess, if anyone wants to see that. So just let me know what you want me to do, and I'll try to get to it. So thanks for watching. I hope you like this, and if you did, just a reminder to press the like button, and have a good one.